Ferrari's engine was not just hot in Austria. It may have been costing them the entire race. And when Vasseur admitted Ferrari had been dealing with engine overheating, he revealed something far more serious than a normal pace problem. Because an overheating engine does not only slow a car down, it forces compromises. It steals attack power. It can hurt straight-line speed, damage tire life, restrict strategy, and turn Hamilton and Leclerc from hunters into managers. That is the insane part. Ferrari did not just lose to Mercedes and Red Bull. Ferrari may have been fighting its own car before it could even fight anyone else. So now the real question is terrifying. If Ferrari was already overheating in Austria, how much performance are they secretly losing every time the race gets hot, dirty, and brutal? Subscribe to the channel. At first, Austria looked like a race Ferrari could still explain. Not dominate, not control, but explain. The team had arrived at the Red Bull ring with momentum, and momentum matters in Formula One because it changes the feeling around every detail. A difficult Friday does not feel like disaster. A strong qualifying lap feels like proof. A small upgrade feels like a step in the right direction. A driver's confidence starts to spread through the garage. And Ferrari had reasons to believe. Hamilton had just come from the emotional lift of Spain, a victory that made the entire project feel more alive. Leclerc was still capable of dragging speed from the car when the moment demanded it. Ferrari had two drivers with the experience, aggression, and race intelligence to punish any weakness from Mercedes or Red Bull. So Austria was supposed to be a test Ferrari could pass. But here is where the trap began. Austria does not test a car gently. It repeats the same pressure again and again until the weakness becomes impossible to hide. Long straights ask the engine and aerodynamic package for efficiency. Heavy braking zones ask the car for stability. Traction zones ask the rear tires for strength. And every lap, the car has to manage heat because heat is the invisible enemy that quietly turns speed into survival. That is why Vasseur's admission mattered so much. Engine overheating is not a small side note. It changes the entire meaning of the weekend. Because if the engine is running too hot, Ferrari cannot simply tell Hamilton and Leclerc to attack harder. The team has to protect the car. And once protection enters the race, everything becomes more limited. The driver may have to lift earlier. The car may lose straight-line performance. The cooling setup may create extra drag. The tires may suffer because the driver has to recover time in other parts of a lap. The strategy may become less aggressive because the car cannot stay in its strongest window for long enough. That is how one heat problem becomes a full race problem. And this is where Austria started to feel dangerous for Ferrari. Leclerc had already warned that Ferrari was losing too much time on the straights. At the Red Bull ring, that is not just annoying, is damaging. The straights are where a car attacks, defends, and controls pressure. If you are weak there, every battle becomes harder before it even begins. But the straights were only the first warning. Ferrari was also surprised by its corner performance. That made the picture much darker. Because a team can accept losing time on the straights if the car is strong enough in the corners to recover it. A team can accept a corner weakness if the car has enough straight-line punch to fight back. But when both sides of the lap begin to feel compromised, the driver runs out of safe places to find lap time. And if the engine is overheating at the same time, the problem becomes even more brutal. Now Ferrari is not only looking for speed. Ferrari is looking for speed it can actually use. That difference is everything. A car can have performance hidden inside it, but if the temperatures are too high, that performance becomes locked away. It is like having a powerful phone that starts overheating. The device still works. The screen still turns on, but suddenly it slows itself down to survive. It protects itself before it performs for you. A Formula One car is far more extreme, but the principle is just as painful. When heat gets out of control, the car starts taking choices away from the driver. And in Austria, that is exactly what Ferrari could not afford. Because Hamilton and Leclerc needed freedom. They needed to attack Mercedes. They needed to pressure Russell. They needed to keep the tires alive while still holding race pace. They needed a car that could fight on the straights, stay stable in the corners, and survive the heat of a full Grand Prix. Instead, the Ferrari looked like it was negotiating with itself. Push too hard, and temperatures become a concern. Protect the engine, and pace begins to fade. Lose speed on the straights, and the driver must work harder in the corners. Work harder in the corners, and the tires begin to suffer. The tires suffer, and the strategy becomes defensive. That is the chain. And once that chain begins, the race starts moving away, one compromise at a time. This is why the Austrian problem was so much bigger than a normal bad Sunday. A normal bad Sunday has a clean explanation. The setup was wrong. The tire choice was wrong. The pit stop timing was wrong. The safety car arrived at the wrong moment. But engine overheating creates a deeper fear because it suggests the car may have been limited from within. That means the Ferrari may not have been beaten only by Mercedes and Red Bull. It may have been beaten first by its own temperature. That is a terrifying idea for a team trying to fight at the front, because rivals can see the symptoms. They can see when the Ferrari cannot stay close. They can see when the pace fades. They can see when the red cars are managing instead of attacking. They can see when Hamilton and Leclerc do not have the freedom to apply pressure for long enough. And once rivals see a pattern, they use it. Mercedes will remember Austria. Red Bull will remember Austria. They will remember that Ferrari looked vulnerable when the race demanded cooling, tire life, straight-line performance, and race pace all at once. They will remember that a car that qualifies well can still become fragile on Sunday if the heat builds too quickly. That is why this first block matters. And Leclerc faces the same pain from a different direction. He can make a Ferrari look alive over one lap. He can pull a qualifying result from a car that is not perfect. But race day demands a different kind of support. The car has to stay with him. It has to protect the tires. It has to keep temperatures under control. It has to let him fight for more than a few laps at a time. In Austria, that support was not strong enough. The result was a race where Ferrari's problems kept returning in different forms. Maybe the driver had grip for a short period, then the tires began to go away. Maybe the straight-line weakness made passing harder. Maybe following another car raised temperatures. Maybe protecting the engine forced a little more management. Maybe the setup that helped qualifying did not give enough race stability. But all of those maybes point in the same direction. Ferrari's race pace was not free. It was restricted by the car's own limits. That is the real meaning of Vasseur's admission. Engine overheating did not sit outside the collapse. It helped explain why the collapse felt so stubborn. Ferrari could not simply tell the drivers to attack through the problem, because the problem was part of the machine itself. When a Formula One car is overheating, bravery is not enough. Talent is not enough. Even strategy is not enough if the underlying heat keeps shaping every decision. That is why Mercedes and Red Bull will study this closely. They will not just ask whether Ferrari was slow. They will ask when Ferrari was slow. They will ask whether the red cars suffered more in traffic. They will ask whether the pace faded after a few laps of pushing. They will ask whether cooling compromises hurt Ferrari on the straights. They will ask whether the tires and the engine temperature were connected through the way the car had to be driven. Because rivals do not need Ferrari's private data to sense weakness. They only need patterns, and Austria gave them patterns. Ferrari looked fast enough to create belief on Saturday, but too restricted to control Sunday. The car had promise, but not comfort. It had speed, but not enough repeatable race strength. It had two elite drivers, but not enough freedom for them to use everything they had. That is what makes this so serious. A bad setup can be fixed. A bad strategy can be reviewed. A difficult tire stint can be understood. But an overheating engine connected to a wider race pace collapse forces Ferrari into a much bigger question. Is the car simply too narrow in its operating window? That means the Ferrari may work when conditions are perfect, but suffer when the race gets hot, dirty, and demanding. It may be strong in clean air, but vulnerable when following. It may produce a sharp qualifying lap, but lose too much when the tires age and the temperatures rise. That kind of car can win races, but it struggles to control championships. And that is why Austria was such a warning. Because the best cars are not only fast when everything is ideal. They stay strong when everything is imperfect. They can follow another car without immediately destroying the tires. They can manage cooling without giving away too much speed. They can defend on the straights without forcing the driver to overwork the corners. Ferrari was missing too much of that balance. And once the race exposed it, the entire weekend changed meaning. The overheating admission became the key that made the other clues fit together. The straight line weakness, the corner surprise, the tire wear, the fading race pace, the reactive strategy, the inability to turn a strong starting position into a sustained fight. It was not one isolated failure. It was a chain, and every link in that chain made the next one worse. That is why the next question for Ferrari is so uncomfortable. How do they fix heat without creating another weakness? If they open a car up for more cooling, they may create more drag. More drag can hurt straight line speed. But straight-line speed was already a problem. If they chase efficiency, the engine may run closer to the limit. If they protect the tires, they may sacrifice the sharpness that helped them in qualifying. If they chase qualifying performance, they may keep hurting their race pace. Every answer has a cost. That is the insane part of Formula One. The solution to one problem can create the next problem. Ferrari now has to find the version of the car that gives Hamilton and Leclerc enough cooling, enough speed, enough tire life, and enough balance at the same time. Not for one lap, not for one perfect circuit, for a full Grand Prix under pressure. Austria suggested they have not found that version yet. And until they do, every race where temperatures rise will carry the same hidden danger. The Ferrari may start strong. It may qualify well. It may look close to Mercedes. But when the race becomes hot and the engine needs protection, the entire picture can shift. The driver starts managing. The tires start fading. The strategy becomes defensive. The rivals gain control. And the fans are left asking why the car that looked promising suddenly could not fight. That is the damage Vasseur's admission created. It did not only explain Austria. It made every future hot race feel suspicious.